Hey y'all, and welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for comics, history, and action figures. Little Spidey and I just took the family out hiking in Utah for the week, and it was absolutely incredible, even if little Spidey managed to get into trouble every now and then. But when we got back, there was a huge amount of figures that we need to open, so we're going to go through each one of these individually, but that's not all. Hang around, because throughout the course of this video, we're going to announce the winners of the 3 Maximum Spider-Man giveaways. So hang tight, there's lots of fun to come. Let's begin with the 2 figures that I got in from the Gamerverse line, beginning with Miles Morales in his Brooklyn 2099 suit. Now, you guys know that I'm not much of a gamer, and in all honesty, I have never played the Spider-Man 2 video game. But I love me some action figures, and I definitely am familiar with the game, so I guess I can kind of speak to this Brooklyn 2099 suit. So when I look at this, I don't know how old Miles is during the game, but this looks like a full-grown man. This certainly doesn't look like kind of a small, tiny teenage Miles. He looks much more like a full-on adult Miles. I guess I can see the Miles resemblance because of sort of this almost like charcoal gray with red appearance to the figure. And then I can kind of bring the 2099 feel in with the look of this spider emblem that really it's different on the back than it is on the front. Now, this obviously has a huge tech vibe to it. There's a lot of shiny components to his upper armor that extends up over the mask. The mask is almost, it almost has like a helmet sort of feel to it with like infrared visors going on. He has what looks like almost what you would see with the Black Widow, with like Widow's blasts at the wrist. And then, of course, it's very tech from the waist down with, almost like a Batman style utility belt, and then more like utility tech pants than they are, spandex. And then he's got on, much more like boots than he does sort of footies. So he's kind of armored superhero from the waist up and then kind of, G.I. Joe from the waist down, but it does create a pretty good effect. And it really comes together in unison because of the color scheme. Now, the figure does come with some pretty sweet accessories. He has these 2 different spider web effects. They're pretty cool. I like the translucent nature of both of them. I don't think that they necessarily fit on the figure anywhere, but I can see myself using them somehow in a display. And he also comes with 3 complete sets of hands. He comes in package with the fists. He comes with classic thwippers, which means that these things that I sort of referred to as Black Widow Blast are almost certainly web shooters now that I look at it with the thwippers in place. Good crunch here, almost 90-degree bend at the knee, and a nice crunch at the abdomen really gives that thwipping effect a nice look. And my personal favorite for any Spider-Man figure, the wall crawlers. These are nice. They've got the great bend at the knuckles so you can see the pressure. But what's really cool is these aren't just simply reused black gloves. No, they have the armored red motif going all the way down the backs of the palms to the fingers. So they are unique for this suit and they really fit in very well. I think I'm probably more excited for the other Miles that are in this series. Those haven't come from Hasbro Pulse for me yet. The Puerto Rican design, as well as kind of just the regular Ultimate Miles. But as far as just having a unique figure who can definitely fit into your Spider-Verse display, this one's pretty good. Now let's take a look at Felicia Hardy as the Black Cat. When I first started reading Spider-Man comics, the Black Cat and Spider-Man were an item. They were dating. In fact, the Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man book probably should have been titled Spider-Man and the Black Cat because it was really kind of their team-up adventures that we followed over in that title. It wasn't until several months into my reading Spider-Man that Mary Jane admitted that she knew that Peter was Spider-Man all along, that she had discovered that many years ago, and their relationship kind of struck back up, and Pete and Black Cat sort of went on the fritz. So Black Cat, for that reason, has a very special place in my heart. Now, we've gotten quite a few Black Cat figures over the years, but they all kind of have something a little bit wrong with them. Some of them look almost too cartoony. Some of them are almost kind of over sexualized with, her cleavage and whatnot. I think this one actually does a really nice job of capturing the feline aspects of her costume with the little bit of fur at her ankles and on her forearms while still being like a functional cat suit. Remember, Felicia is a cat burglar. And so here she has kind of one of those almost sort of Mission Impossible type leather suits that makes sense for her profession. And you do get this white piping that goes around that I think helps to add a lot of flavor to it. Really, really love this head sculpt. She's got kind of a smirk on her face, and the mask, instead of just simply being a simple mask, it's actually goggles with really cool, like glass features over her eyes. And of course, the eyes have the new inkjet technology that has basically revolutionized the look of any figure in Marvel Legends that has like an exposed face. I mean, the figures now compared to the figures just a couple 3 years ago are just on a completely different level. And this Black Cat is another great example of that. I like the fact that her ponytail has some articulation that gives her the ability to kind of, if you have her sort of hanging upside down, you can have the gravity going this way. You can do a lot with that. That's really, really cool. She has a pair of claw hands, which I think looks really nice, but she also came with an additional set of hands. And those include one fist and one grabber where she is holding the Wand of Watum. Very cool. I have no idea if the Wand of Watum appears in the video game. That was the MacGuffin from Spider-Man Annual #2, which was the first team up between Steve Ditko's two greatest Marvel creations, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. They battled and tried to fight to get the Wand of Watum back. It's something that has been used over and over again in Marvel history. Specifically, it was one of the totems that had to be retrieved during the JLA Avengers crossover. So really, really cool accessory to come with Black Cat. Not only that, but it has this like green fluorescent translucent center, which gives it just a whole lot more pizzazz than just a simple plastic piece. So I hate to admit it, like I really like Black Cat, but honestly, maybe my favorite part of the whole figure is the Wand of Watum. Hey guys, if you watched my review of the Maximum Spider Man figure, you know that I promised to give away completely free 3 different ones of these. So all you had to do was leave me a comment and you were eligible to win one of these. And we got over 1,000 comments on that video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this iPad, give it a shake for the random number generator, and it comes up to 892. So let's go to the comments and see what was comment 892, and that's going to be the winner of our first Maximum Spider-Man. So the first Maximum Spidey goes to Aiden Charlton. Aiden, shoot me an email at the address down below, and we'll find a way to get you your figure. All right, we are back and coming for the big boy. Yes, while I was gone, my Maximum Hulk came in, and I got to admit, it's a pretty hefty package. You can see that great clap effect with the wind blow. Really nice. 3 separate heads, which when Dwight was describing this on the live stream, they actually specifically mentioned the different artists that these heads are reminiscent of. I like that, this is the best place for comics history and action figures. So that connection between the comics and the action figures is something that I really, really enjoy. And when they start talking about, Mike Diodato, Ed McGuinness, Dale Canown, those heads were based on those artists, much like the Maximum Spider-Man was based off of Todd McFarlane's art. That really makes me excited. So let's open this guy up, take a look, and see exactly what we've got. Okay, let's start with the Dale Keown head, and I want to start with that one for a reason, because when Keown was working on the book, he was working with writer extraordinaire Peter David, and unfortunately, we just lost Peter David. He passed away just a few weeks ago. Peter David had an unprecedented 12-year run writing The Incredible Hulk. I mean, he is the definitive Hulk writer, and so when you think about all of the great stories from the Maestro to Smart Hulk to Gray Hulk, all of that stuff was during Peter David's great run. So it's kind of a coincidence that this Maximum Hulk comes out just as at a time that we need to honor Peter David, but let's all keep him in our memory as we go forward. Now, I also wanted to do this head first because I think it's the most unique one that we have gotten. We haven't really had this smiling, smart, slick backed haired looking Hulk before. And I think they did a really good job capturing this. Now, as far as the body, I know there's been a lot of complaints about reuse of parts, that a lot of this is very similar to previous Hulks that we've gotten, with the exception of this kind of plasticky this sort of rubbery upper torso. And, when you're standing here looking at it, it looks really awesome. When you go to touch it, that's kind of weird, man. And it's the same material back here across his back muscles. It just doesn't dent in the way that it does. I know that the purpose for this was so that we could get some really incredible articulation, really get those arms in front. But look at how that kind of crunches up. That's a little bit funky. I just opened these. That's the whole point of these videos, is I'm looking at them for the first time. So this is my first time really messing with these. I do like the ratcheted joints at the shoulder, because you can kind of hear that butterfly and know that it's going to stay in place. But I have to admit, that's kind of a funky look there for the Hulk. Now, he is a hulking figure. I mean, he is a big boy, and there's pretty good articulation of this head. I tell you what, why don't we look at some of the other heads and talk about their inspiration as we continue to go through the figure. Next up, I've got the Ed McGuinness head, and they really did capture that just sort of almost like future Kirby bombastic style of Ed McGuinness, and he had an indelible mark on the Hulk with his big sort of bulbous musculature, and this figure really does go well with that. I do think that the huge chest and those flexed neck muscles really do stand out with the McGuinness head, and when you get those shoulders back, and you can really tilt him back, I don't know, that's pretty cool. I mean, that definitely is a look, and a really strong sort of rampaging Hulk sort of look. My biggest complaint with this is we've gotten this before. We got a definitive Ed McGuinness Red Hulk figure. I feel like we've gotten a Green Hulk. I'm not sure that I remember properly on that, but it feels like this is a head that we've gotten. And if the idea behind the Maximum line is, quote, this is the only Hulk you'll ever need, like this is the definite, definitive Hulk, then I feel like we should have gotten maybe a little bit more of an old school, like a Sal Buscema, John Buscema, Herb Trimpe sort of head, like a 70s look to go along with the 80s, 90s look of Dale Keown, and then the one that we're going to see next. But as far as this goes, I mean, it definitely brings the energy, which is really one of the big hallmarks of Ed McGuinness's art. So from that standpoint, it's great. I just, I wish it wasn't something that we'd already seen. I would much rather have something new. For our third head, this one was referred to by Dwight during the live stream as the Mike Deodato head. And Mike Deodato is a brilliant Brazilian artist. He's been around a long time. You've seen his work on any number of things. And he does have kind of a really, exaggerated style. But when I think about Deodato's Hulk, I think about all the veins and all the stippling and the striping of the musculature, being able to see like each of the sinews like bursting out, not necessarily this more, McGuinness or more classic Hulk. And while he does have a little bit more of that 70s hairstyle, I don't know, man. I think people are going to call this Joker Hulk, because that mouth is just so extreme. I mean, if I was a Colgate salesman, this would be like a dream come true. These giant chompers. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't, maybe there might be a pose where I could utilize this, but it's just, the mouth is so overblown that I don't know that it really gives me those Deodato vibes that I want. And it definitely, the body doesn't match, his style as much as I would like. So, I don't know. I think we should put the Keown head back on and look at some of the accessories that this big boy came with. So we've seen these open hands as we've been going through the figure, and I think for sure they're my favorites. They're the ones that really kind of express that rage and just that monster Hulk. It's like he's about to grab you. He's coming at you. So the more open hands for sure are my favorites. But we did get two other pairs to go with this figure. You really can't have a Hulk without fists, and these are monsters. They're really, really big. If you've ever studied classic sculpture, you know that Michelangelo's David is generally considered one of the greatest sculptors of all time. But in that sculpture, he purposefully made the hands and the head disproportionately larger to the rest of the body. And these fists, they kind of feel that way. And it really gives them a tremendous amount of power. If you're, Thor or Hercules or the Thing, and you see these green monsters coming at you, you know that you are in big trouble. So, big props to the giant fist. They also have a good joint right at the wrist, so you can get them into some kind of cocked up positions or coming up over the top. So, really nice articulation, good twist all the way around, nice bend, super good fist for the green Goliath. And then you've got the slappers. And I have to admit, sometimes if I'm like watching ESPN late at night and those commercials come on for those like slap fighting competitions where these two huge burly dudes just whack at each other with open palms, I am a little bit kind of fascinated by that. But for Hulk, this is actually a really, really useful accessory because of how he has always used his powers. From the very beginning, Hulk has been able to create like a thunderclap with these. And the more that I play with this figure, the more I'm really kind of enjoying this goofy, gooey torso because it really does help to bring things together. So let's bust out a couple of the other accessories and see how they work with these giant slappy hands. Okay, that's actually really cool. I had to get the Ed McGuinness screaming head back out for these because I just felt like it really worked. Look at that. Look at those hands coming together to create that thundercloud snap effect. And they're not completely clear. They're clear back here, but then this way there's just a little bit of tint, like it's coming right off of Hulk's hands. Oh, those look really, really awesome. And if you notice, they have a clip that comes and clips right at the wrist, so right where the hands peg into the wrist, but then they're sculpted so that they fit perfectly over the knuckles of these fingers. Just a really nice touch, and they come across and they fit really, really well. And the bicep tricep is on kind of a loose joint, so you can kind of swivel it around to get it to move however you need to in order to get the hands to come together pretty fully. I mean, you can get them pretty flat, which is really, really nice. Now, one thing that I've seen with other reviewers, I think it was probably Shardamus that said this, was that it's really hard to figure out how to get this effect to work. Like you almost have to just sort of like get it to just see it doesn't clip it. At least I can't tell that it really clips into anything. I don't know if it's supposed to clip over like this. It's round as if it almost like it's supposed to. Maybe it goes on the fist. I don't, but we saw it on the back of the package where it's kind of creating sort of this thunderclap look. But I wish that this was a little bit tighter, that this fit in tighter. But as far as like ease of function and form of fit, these thunderclap accessories, really, really nice. Yeah, see, it almost fits in better when you put it right on the fist. It actually fits pretty snug right there. I'm twisting this thing all around and it doesn't come off. And it really does give a pretty powerful dynamic whapping motion there. So, maybe we can use it more with the fist hand more so than with the thunderclapping hands. So this is the accessory that I've seen people having the most fun with, and it's like the missile rocket thing. Really nice kind of flame effect coming out of the back. And I mean, it's got some decent sculpting, not a lot of color going on, but then when you break it apart, I really love just the simple effect of these wires being a different color and kind of the spine coming through. I've seen a lot of use of this in action figure photography. I saw somebody who had a really cool, like the rocket was like phasing through Colossus because Kitty was touching him. Just a really, really cool look. And hey, I am not here to try to justify the price of Maximum Series figures, but if we're going to call them Maximum, I kind of want to see some accessories like this, some unique things that really do add value, things that people who are big time into action figure photography can use. Those of us who really just like to set up our figures in cool poses, this is good for that. So I think this is actually a pretty neat addition to Maximum Hulk. Okay, everybody, we've given one of these away. It's time to shake the random number generator and give away a second one. So let's grab the iPad. We'll give it a shake. 542. We're going to go head to the comments, see who was 542, and you're going to get your very own Maximum Spider-Man. And the second figure goes to MNR Plays Games. Hit me up at the email below and we'll get you your figure. And we are back with a look at the X-Force X-23 Warpath 2-pack. Now, one of the things that bothers me the most as an action figure collector is incomplete teams. And truly, neither one of these characters are probably strong enough to deserve a solo figure on their own. So getting them together in a 2-pack goes a long way towards completing this team. We've gotten a number of versions of Wolverine in his X-Force outfit. We recently got a Nightcrawler in his X-Force. We've got Angel on the way with that new Psylocke that's in the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Perhaps we'll see one of those. But this 2-pack is the only way that you're really going to be able to complete this team. So I appreciate that as a builder of displays having complete teams. Warpath is fine. I don't really have any emotional connection to this character, so I can't exactly wax poetic about his adventures and whatnot. I have more memories of his brother, I guess, that was the original Thunderbird as part of the all new, all different X-Men. You guys know I'm not an expert on these bodies, but even I can tell that this is an older body because you've got pins at the elbows and pins at the knees. And it's kind of that bigger, clunkier body, the big kind of bulbous, rounded shoulders, and these, almost like, almost comical, sort of almost cartoonish looking thighs. It does have a pretty good head sculpt, and the paint apps are better. This is definitely better than that San Diego Comic-Con exclusive one, I think was the last X-Force Warpath that we got. So pretty good. He's got a couple pair of hands. I went ahead and put the grabby hands so that he can have his knives. But, cool. Helps you complete the team, but that's kind of all I've got to say about this one. Yeah, the highlight of this 2-pack for me, for sure, is the X-23 figure. Laura here has had some bad Marvel Legends figures in the past, so it's nice to see her on the new super articulated female body. She's got double jointed elbows, double jointed pinless knees, really great action with this diaphragm cut, and none of it messes up the look of her sculpt. Super, super cool. She does have all three of her claws, the two up here at the hands and the one down at her feet, kind of coming out of her toes. And of course, the paint on this head sculpt is just really, really good. Again, you're talking about leaps and bounds of improvement in female head sculpts, particularly when you've got painted faces. But luckily, she actually came with, this is kind of the standard sort of standing here, getting ready to kill you looking head, but she has the full on, I'm in the air coming after you head as well. Yeah, here it is. This is the last thing you're ever going to see head. I really like the way that her hair is like swooping back and swooping around. That action pose looks really great. And I don't know about you guys, but when I look at this profile, when I look at this head sculpt, this one with the mask on looks more reminiscent of the actress who played X-23 in the final Wolverine movie, and then in Wolverine Deadpool Wolverine, depends on who you ask. There's something about it that it kind of, I don't know, I think it really favors her. So that's almost like an added bonus. We'll probably get her in some additional Deadpool Wolverine lines. They may have already even announced it, I'm not sure. But again, really good dynamic figure, really great on the new female body, lots of posability, gonna look good in your X-Force display. Okay, lots to say about this one. First off, I want to thank my buddy Toy Shiz for posting on his Instagram that this was available on the Target app or on the Target website, because I missed the initial pre-order. I was able to put this in while I was on vacation, and it was waiting for me when I got home. So super excited to get this retro card back X Factor Jean Grey. Couldn't have done it without Toy Shiz. Second of all, this is, of course, the X Factor version. And X Factor was a reuniting of the 5 original X-Men: Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, Angel, and Jean Grey. The problem was, at the time, Jean Grey was dead. She had sacrificed her life to the Phoenix Force, and the Phoenix Force, she took her own life to protect the universe, and in canon at the time, there was no Jean Grey. So there was no way that you were going to be able to reunite the original X-Men when one of them was dead, which brings up one of the greater mysteries slash stories in the history of comics. So Kurt Busiek, future writer extraordinaire, future Marvel DC superstar. When he was a college kid, he actually pitched an idea to Marvel writer Roger Stern that Jean Grey, the body of Jean Grey, was actually still in stasis at the bottom of Jamaica Bay, and that the Phoenix Force had taken over and kind of cloned her body, and that was what had died in the Marvel Universe, while the original Jean Grey was still in stasis at the bottom of Jamaica Bay in New York, where their space shuttle had crashed at the end of Uncanny X-Men 101. Stern then told that idea to John Byrne, who was writing and drawing Fantastic Four at the time. And I had a subscription to Fantastic Four during that time. And in a crossover with the Avengers, they actually found Jean Grey down at the bottom of the bay and brought her back, thus paving the way for the original X-Men to reunite as X-Factor. So, like I said, a lot goes into this figure. Now, let's open it up and take a look. All right, let's just go ahead and get one thing right out of the way right off of the bat. She doesn't have her boots on. Even on the package, she has her yellow boots. Now, there's probably a lot of reasons for this. Obviously, number one is cost cutting. Number two is it's really hard to get that yellow paint to stay over the green. And so a lot of times you'll see the green bleed through. They actually did a pretty good job of it with this figure where it didn't, but it would be best if you had like a cut, like a boot cut there, and the entire lower boot was that yellow piece, but it's not, and we're just going to have to get over it because this is definitively the look of Jean Grey in issue 1 of X Factor. And I hate to keep bringing this up. This is like that in memoriam segment at the Oscars, but that first issue of X Factor where Jean kind of first wears this look was drawn by Butch Guice. And unfortunately, Butch Guice also recently passed away. He was an absolutely incredible artist, probably best known for his work on Micronauts, but just and by all accounts, a really awesome guy. So again, I'm kind of glad that this figure came out so that we can remember, at least for a moment, Butch Guice. That being said, I have always hated this look for Jean Grey. You're talking about one of the hottest, prettiest characters in the history of the Marvel Universe, and she's got this dopey looking full head mask with her gorgeous red hair sort of flowing out the back. Now, don't get me wrong, it is super accurate to that first issue, and even the accessory that goes along with it is spot on. So you get the little telekinesis thing happening here. I have no idea how you're supposed to use this. I don't know if I'm supposed to get some like gummy tack and put it up there because it doesn't really attach anywhere, but it's kind of a cool little piece if I could figure out how to use it. But yeah, even though this is super accurate and even though this goes with the yellow crossed Cyclops that we just got in the Holocaust Build-A-Figure wave, this is not my favorite look for Jean Grey. This is much, much better. Now, you still have the mask, so you're kind of protecting her identity. She's going by Marvel Girl, but at least you can see kind of that gorgeous face and that flowing red hair. So Bob Layton was the original writer of the series, but Louise Simonson came on shortly thereafter and kind of changed things up. I think that sales were maybe lagging a little behind some of the other X titles, but Louise Simonson brought on the linchpin of everything that really let X Factor take off, and that was her husband. She brought her husband, Walt Simonson, on for the art chores, and so Walt opened up the look of Marvel Girl, gave her this open-haired, flowing look. He kind of redesigned some of the other characters. Beast went back to his human form. So you really did have the original X-Men all over again. Of course, changes were to come. Archangel quickly happened. So a lot was there. Simonson also inverted this costume to more of a red and gold, which we really need because that is the best look for this character, but this is a much more preferred look for Marvel Girl. Now we're cooking. You know I had to save Emo Toby for last, but hang around till the end of the video because we've still got one more Maximum Spider-Man figure to give away. I've heard some people say that, this is just a repaint of the No Way Home Spider Man figure, the No Way Home Tobey Maguire Spider Man figure, and therefore it's built off of, kind of an older, maybe a little bit doughier, not quite as muscular Tobey as he was during the filming of Spider Man 3. And yeah, I mean, I can see that. That's a valid point, I guess, but it totally doesn't matter to me. I mean, he has, pretty human, sort of normal, realistic MCU proportions. But for me, it's about how great this paint app is. I mean, look at how awesome that silver on black looks, and the raised web lines are so super tight. When you go back and you look at MCU Spider-Man figures, particularly from the Sam Raimi Tobey Maguire trilogy, no one came close to the ones that were produced by Toy Biz. Those figures that they made for particularly the first two movies were just beyond compare. This is the best thing that Hasbro has done as far as those movies since then. I mean, this looks really, really good. And these paint apps are, dare I say it, better than the Toy Biz ones. I mean, they're super tight. Look at that. And the way that that silver bounces off that black, that's just really good. So, this is the definitive kind of symbiote black suit Spider Man from Spider Man 3. I mean, this thing is just really good. And we haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. Oh, yeah. Now we're talking. I mean, I am about to break out into some dashboard confessional just looking at this thing. This is so freaking emo. I don't even know what to say. The hair swooping down, that little bit of what almost looks like eyeliner around his eyes, those pouty lips. Oh, this is just so terrific. I mean, come on, you guys. Hasbro crushed it with this head. I mean, this is just terrible perfection in all of its glory. And we're still not to the best part. Ha! Now we are seeing the full expression of the evil that is the Venom symbiote. Look at this thing climbing up over Toby's face. I love how those claws are like up, like right across his cheeks and down his jawline, how it like spreads across his chest and like slimes across his back, and that the Venom head and mask is just about to engulf Toby's head. This is a brilliantly sculpted figure. I'm going to have to ask at San Diego Comic-Con who sculpted this, because I really want to give credit where credit is due. The fact that this just sort of sits right on his shoulders but creates so much life and terror in this figure, oh, that is just absolutely brilliant. I cannot say enough about how cool this symbiote head is coming up over Toby's face. That is just so dope, and takes an A plus character, an A plus figure, and puts it into the stratosphere. Okay, it is time to give away our third and final Maximum Spider-Man figure. So, here she comes, random number generator. Give it a shake. 410. All right, let's go see who number 410 was and see who gets the last completely free Maximum Spidey. Okay, I'm going to guess that this name stands for William Davis Jr. Congratulations! You have got a free Maximum Spidey coming your way. Shoot me an email, we'll get in contact, and it is headed straight to you. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Remember, winners, shoot me an email at what you saw on the screen. I'm going to get these out to their new homes very, very quickly. And as always, for the best in comics history and action figures, subscribe to Carbon Scoring.